Center in Century Village of Pembroke Pines, Florida. Wishing you a good Shabbos and a good week afterwards. We're going to be reading tomorrow morning on Shabbos morning. We're going to be reading Parashat Shoftim. The topic, of course, that the Torah discusses is the judges and all the ramifications of the courts. And one very interesting commentary that I caught was the fact that the priests, the Kohanim, the temple priests, some of them were on the high court, the Supreme Court of the ancient Jewish people, the Sanhedrin. And as a matter of fact, there were temple priests who also sat in the rabbinical assembly and discussed the Jewish law with the other rabbis as well. And I thought to myself, wasn't there some kind of a separation? In other words, didn't the rabbis in those days say, fellas, all you Kohanim, you stick to the courtyard of the Holy Temple, and you stick to the rituals of Judaism, and leave the hammering out of Jewish law to all of us rabbis. You stay in your territory, we'll stay in our territory, we'll get along fine that way. Well, no, as a matter of fact, the Rabbinical Assembly and the Sanhedrin were delighted to accept Kohanim, temple priests, in the High Court and in the Rabbinical Assembly. Because the whole idea was to be a person who, like the Kohanim, cared about ritual observances, but at the same time understood that there was a connection between ritual observances and the laws of how you conduct yourself in society with your fellow human beings. Those two concepts, ritual and civil law, were actually inseparable, because the whole idea of the rituals was to raise you up, to make you a higher, noble person who thought constantly about the right way to relate to his or her fellow human beings. There was an incident, very sad one, in Great Neck, New York, where I lived for quite some time, about 8 or 9 years ago. Wonderful restaurant there, name withheld. Orthodox, kosher restaurant. Loads of people went there, big Orthodox community there. And the next thing we heard, to our amazement, was that the rabbis in Great Neck withdrew their kashrut approval, the approval of the dietary law fitness of the restaurant. Well, that could shut down the restaurant because the restaurant's clientele were Orthodox Jews. Sure enough, that's what happened. And rabbi of our synagogue explained, when we found out how the owner of that restaurant was treating his employees, we immediately pulled our approval of his dietary laws in the kitchen. It turns out that he was extorting, under pain of dismissal, the money that the waiters and waitresses made from their tips. He was saying, if you don't give me 90% of the gratuities that you got from customers, you're fired. Well, the waiters and waitresses live on those gratuities. You get almost nothing from the hourly wage. If you're a waiter or a waitress, you get your real living from the tips that the customers give you. So here he was, leaving them with virtually nothing to live on. And when the rabbis heard about that, they immediately withdrew their approval of how he conducts the kitchen, because, I'm sorry, kashrut is not just about how you keep a kosher kitchen. Kashrut is about how you then take the insights as to how ethical you should be in life and transfer them into the way you deal with your fellow human beings. This is Rabbi Harvey Hoffman from Century Pines Jewish Center in Century Village of Pembroke Pines, wishing you a good Shabbos and a good week. Bye-bye.